All right, we're preparing the live stream. Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first in our series of Building Black Wealth. This is session of wealth number 101, Attaining Home Ownership. My name is Ronald Stovall Jr., the Midwestern Regional Vice President of Alpha for Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. It is my pleasure to introduce to you three amazing speakers who are going to take us through that process of attaining home ownership. Our first speaker will be Toni Davis Spivey, the Assistant Vice President and Community Mortgage Specialist with Truist Bank, who will be speaking on loan products for buyers. We'll then go to Ashley Thomas, the Second Vice President of NAREB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and CEO of LA Top Broker, who will be speaking on the impact of student loan debt. And then we will end with Will Hayworth, CEO of the Will Estate Group and NAREB member, who will be speaking on the buying process and credit. And again, this is a partnership between Alpha for Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and NAREB. So it is my pleasure to start us off with Toni Davis Spivey.
Right, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully everybody can see. So I have a few minutes to talk, and since we've had a little technical thing, let's kind of go through this fairly quickly. Good evening, and thank you all for us logging in tonight and for your patience through our technical challenges. I was asked this evening to speak on a product, to feature a product that would be helpful to first-time home buyers, and in this case, this product can be used even for repeat buyers, or if you already own a house, but you're going to want to hold on to it and rent it and buy your next primary residence. And it's kind of one of our crown jewels we refer to as the Truest Mortgage Grant. And our grant does allow for the client to obtain 3% of your sales price or the value up to a maximum of $7,500. And the great part about it is it can be used towards your down payment, your closing costs, or your prepaids. We do use this in conjunction with a conventional loan product partnered with Fannie Mae, known as Home Ready. It has competitive pricing on it. In fact, I have clients, when I look at their file, I look at this versus sometimes they want to do what we refer to as state housing, and the interest rate always beats out that product hands down every single time. There's no additional credit overlays or extras on there. The money that you get from us is forgiven at closing. You do not have to pay it back. You do not have to live in the home for 5 years. It's not a 0% deferred interest loan. It is basically considered an outright gift. Under IRS regulation, we do have to capture a W-9 that is signed at closing because it's reported as income at the time of the year that you close. It can be used for purchase mortgages only. So you can't use it for refinance, and it must be for a single unit property that you will be living in as your primary residence. And as I stated earlier, there's no repayment required. And we do offer this product in multiple markets. I have here a grid that shows you the different areas where we do offer this grant. Very, very popular. Buyers love it. Agents love it. So it can help you with offsetting some of your costs and hold on to a little bit more of your cash. And that is my quick presentation. This is my contact information. I will put my email in the chat. So if anybody would like the presentation, they can always reach out to me via email, and I'll be glad to shoot to you in an email.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for that information. Thank you so much for the information. When we will have these slides shared with everyone as we move through the series, so you don't have to worry about that if you missed something or something didn't stick. So don't worry about that. Let's move over now to Ashley Thomas, who's going to talk to us about the impact of student loan debt.
All right, thank you, Brother Stovall. It's good to see as many people as I can see. Brother Gilliard, Charles Gilliard, it's good to see you out there. So I had to give a shout out to Mr. Gilliard. It's good to see you. So I believe the sharing of the screen is a challenge, but you can see the video. Is that correct? Let me know if you could see her last slides, because what I don't want to do is bring up slides that you can't see and remove my video. Okay. All right, I'm going to try to put my slides up just really quick. If you can't see it, I'll remove them and then I'll go through it. It's not necessarily required in the presentation, and I'll move as quickly as possible because I do know we're a little pressed for time. So let me see when I well, actually, there's an error on the slide. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. We can get through this. So first, I do have the opportunity to talk specifically about student loans and its impact on housing. I'm gonna go ahead and give an overview on student loans and where we're at. So the total student loan balance today exceeds $1.61 trillion. It is the second highest housing debt that we have. So it's greater than all of the auto loans for the homes. It's greater than all the credit cards that are outstanding balances. Mortgages are obviously number one, followed by student loans debt. Over 44 million people have student loans. I remember for those of you who have been in this business a while, we used to take applications and interview clients, and we say, have you purchased a car lately? Well, over the years, that question has changed to, do you have any student loan debt? And it's because of how that debt is calculated in underwriting for financing and whatnot. The delinquency rate on student loans is approximately 12%. Student loans typically cannot be released through bankruptcy or whatnot. And then the average cost of tuition over the last 10 years has increased by 42%. So obviously income has not done the same, has not followed the same increase. So that's very much of a concern when we talk about purchasing a home and qualifying for a home. Let me put this on the record before I get in trouble. But I do want to say that the presentation about student loans is not advocating against student loans. We believe in higher education. We believe that it is a pathway to employment and greater understanding, and just the knowledge base and the experience that you can get from college and universities is immeasurable. However, we want to be cognizant of the impact of lending and taking out student loans. And I'll tell you a quick personal story, and then I'm gonna keep on track. But a bunch of my buddies, when we graduated high school, went to college. You know, we offered every credit card that was on campus, and we were offered student loans. And many of us took more loans than we actually needed, and we did other things with the funding. And ultimately, later we had to pay that back. And said, well, why did I take out so much? You know, and it was offered, and we were young, 17, 18 years old, being offered student loans to go to college. So I want to spend some time and talk about credit. So credit is very important. And I'm going to be very blunt about it. And there's misinformation, and you can research it, but I would tell you that credit is impacted by your student loan. So if you take a deferment, that means I'm deferring the payments and I'm not going to make any payments during this time. Your credit score is going to be impacted. Now they'll say, I'm not going to give you a negative credit rating, which means that you didn't miss a payment. but your original balance on that student loan was 20,000. You took a deferment. So every month your interest is being compounded on top of that balance. So now you look up and you owe $26,000. Well, the credit scoring in terms of how it's really looked at, it says, wait, you owe more than you originally started with. So that has a negative impact on your credit. It's not always about late payments or does the creditor say that you don't have to make a payment that month. You actually are increasing your balance over the original contracted agreement. So therefore, it does have an impact on your credit score. Next, late payments. Obviously, we understand how late payments can have an impact on your credit scores. And many people are carrying multiple months of late payments, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So when you go to purchase a home, your credit rating is what is challenging, is very important in terms of qualifying for a home. So if you had late payments, you still could qualify, but your score might be lower, therefore your interest rate might be higher. So there's a correlation between lower credit score and higher interest rate, and that's across the board. I know we're cut for time, but I do want to touch on a couple things. So the thing that we really want to focus on is income inequality. We asked our students, our children, to do the right thing. We asked to go to college, stay in school, graduate, and then get a job. If you look at Black households, make 61 cents on the dollar for the same education, for the same employment position. And so this is why student loans are very much of an issue and a concern for the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. But instead of pointing out the obvious, let's talk about some of the solutions that we support. Number one, we support reforming the system, the student loan system in terms of lending. If you go to get a VA loan or FHA mortgage or conventional mortgage, all of those groups identify the calculation differently. And so we want to have uniformity across the board when it comes down to how it's calculated. Is it 1%? Is it 0.5%? Let it be consistent across the board. Number two, student loan system. I mean, it's an investment in American people. The thought is I'll go to college, I'll get a higher paying job, which ultimately translates to higher paying taxes. So if I'm paying more into the system, then the system can't be a for-profit system. It needs to be a nonprofit system in terms of interest rate and whatnot, and allow it to be very simply paid back easily. And then the last point is balanced underwriting. So I'm on a deferment. I don't have any payments that are due right now. But way the underwriting is set up today is that it will factor in the future payment. So it'll say, well, you do have a debt, and at some point this debt will come due. So I'm gonna go ahead and factor it in as though you're paying on it today. And so we look at that as an imbalanced underwriting. Number one, I'm also making X number of dollars in income today, and the assumption would be that over the next few years, I would increase my income, but you're not going to give me an increase in income. You want to just increase my debt. And so we look at that as an imbalance. We're fighting for more balance across the board for student loans and how it's done. It's funny, you can't see this story, I understand, so I'll share it in my closing. It's a student carrying on his back a lot of bags, heavy weighted, that say 5-figure student loan debt, and he's almost crawling back to his parents' house, and his parents are saying, "You're trying to move back home? Like, these kids today are so lazy and irresponsible. Your mother and I started out with nothing." And the student responds, he says, "If only I could start out with nothing." And so that's what we really look at, as we talk about how easy it is to rack up $250,000 in student loan debt, but how challenging it is to get a $10,000 business loan. And so we need some more parity across the board in lending. And so NAREB will continue to fight for that. Thank you, Brother Stovall.
And thank you, Ashley, for Brother Thomas, for that presentation. We'll now take us over to Will Hayworth. who will speak on the buying process and credit. And then before we start, well, just so you know, this is being recorded, and we will post this on our YouTube channel as well and share that link over. So for those who are having difficulty seeing the information, it'll be there as well. And we'll also look at ways for us to add an additional session on given the things that we've seen today. So Will, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Can you guys see my screen? No, this is a challenge tonight. Yeah? No? Can anyone see?
We can.
Yes, sir.
There's some who can see
Oh,
it.
you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk about the home buying process along with a little bit about credit. Okay. Let me see. I know we're short on time, so I'm gonna skip through a couple of things. Right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So step one is seek credit pre-approval. All right. So your lender is going to review your credit score and your financial status to see if you qualify. Credit requirements. Most lenders require a minimum score of 500 to 580 for FHA with a 3.5% down and 10% down for the 500 credit score. Okay, conventional is looking for a 620 minimum credit score for a 3.5% down, and there's no minimum credit score on VA loans. All right, getting finance may take time, so make sure you provide these documents early on. Your last 2 years of W-2s, 2021 and 2020, your last 2 months of bank statements and retirement statements, all pages, all accounts. Make sure you also include your last 2 months of paycheck stubs. Now, if you're self-employed, you're going to add the following: your last 2 years of tax returns and your 1099s, along with your last 12 months of bank statements, because they have special programs out there for self-employed. All right. Oh, let's go back a little bit. Oh, okay, here we go. So speaking of credit, what is credit? What is called credit is the ability to borrow money, access goods and services, and use financial means of another party. Creditors grant credit based on their confidence in the ability to pay back what you borrow with interest or charges that may apply. And as you see on the screen, this is how the credit bracket rates you. Okay, 580 to 669 is fair, 670 to 739 is good, 740 to 799 is very good, and 800 to 850 is excellent, and of course 300 to 579 is considered to be very poor. All right, different items that hurt your credit score: applying for a lot of credit in a short amount of time, using too much available credit, defaulting on your accounts, and missing payments. 4 ways to maintain good credit score. 1, always pay your bills on time. 2, keep your credit card balances well below the limit, 20% balance or lower. And then 3, don't close any good established accounts. A lot of people don't know about this, so make sure you don't close any established accounts. And then you also want to check your credit report regularly. And if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can get a free credit report every year. Negative items that affect your score. These items decrease your score. Late payments, a lot of people don't know, but it could decrease your score 110 points. Debt settlements, 125 points. Foreclosures, 160 points. Bankruptcies, 240 points. Collections, 110 points. And hard inquiries are 15 points. Okay, how do you fix bad credit on your own? Figure out where you are. If you find errors, dispute them. Pay all bills on time moving forward. Pay down credit card balances. Stop bleeding now. Don't apply for any new credit. 4 tips to manage your credit. Once again, you always want to keep track of your spending. Don't exceed your credit limit. Have an emergency fund and pay what you owe. 8 things that affect your credit score. Business credit cards. A lot of people don't know this because it's in your business name. If you default on it, it's going to come back to you. Any unpaid medical bills, unpaid utility bills, overdue phone books. That's a typo. Sorry about that. Rent affects your credit. So if you owe your landlord some money, don't think you could just bail out on them. It will follow you. So make sure you always pay your rent, especially right now when you're in the pandemic. I know the government says you don't have to pay, but guess what? If you don't pay, that's still going to follow you and your credit. And when you do decide to buy, you're going to have that on your credit. So you always want to pay your rent, especially if you can. If you cannot, that's a different story. Make sure you communicate with your landlord. Okay. Be careful when you co-sign on a loan. A lot of times people want to co-sign. Guess what? You co-sign, you're responsible for the good and the bad. All right. Be careful with personal loans. You're responsible for those as well. Credit limit increase. You can call your banks or your credit card companies. And when you're asking for these increases, a lot of times they're running your credit. So this affects your credit score. This is considered an inquiry. Taxes. If you owe taxes, if it's reported to your credit, this will affect your credit score as well. And child support. If you owe child support, this will affect your credit. How long each item stays on your credit report. Open accounts in good standings is stay on your account forever. Okay. Close accounts in good standings is stay on your credit for 10 years. Late or missed payments, 7 years. Collections, 7 years. Chapter 7 bankruptcy, 10 years. Chapter 13 bankruptcy, 7 years. Credit inquiries, 2 years. Okay. Credit score and mortgage types. Minimum credit score to get a mortgage, as I talked about it earlier. FHA 500 for 10% down or 580 for 3.5% down. VA minimum score is 580 and it can vary depending on the lender. USD loans, which is a farm loan, 640 and conventional is 620. Now, a lot of people don't know. If you watch Netflix, you can actually build it to your credit. So paying your Netflix subscription bill can improve your Experian credit score. You have to go to Experian. They offer alternate credit, and this will help you. This could work with other digital subscriptions as well. Spotify, Amazon. It also works on your utilities now. So check with Experian. This will help increase your score. Credit score and loan approval. The biggest secret about credit repair is that there is no secret. You have to start doing the right thing and paying your bills on time. And you want to establish a healthy financial relationship with your credit. A lot of people don't know. You can actually build credit by renting. So you may be paying $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. This can report to your credit and you will get credit as if it was a mortgage. And this will help your credit score increase tremendously. All right. All right. Back to the buying process. Step 2, you want to set a budget. Decide on how much you can spend on your new home. Buying a house is a life-changing experience, but you also want to set a reasonable limit. Okay. Whenever you're buying a house, you have your down payments that we just talked about, but you're also going to have closing costs. Your closing costs is going to vary from 2% to 3% of the purchase price. Different closing cost fees will include escrow, title, lender fees, and you may be required to set up an impound account for taxes and insurance whenever you put down less than 20%. All right. So don't forget to include your other monthly expenses as well in your budget. Taxes, insurance. If you don't have an impound account, you're paying it on your own. You want to set aside a budget for your taxes and insurance. If you're buying a house and you're putting down less than 20%, you're going to have mortgage insurance. If you're buying a condo or a home in a gated community, you're going to have HOAs, which is homeowners association fees. And then you also want to keep in mind, you're going to have utilities. So your water bill, your gas bill, electricity bill, and you may also have some maintenance, things you have to fix up around the house. Now, you may say, well, what type of fees do I have to pay out of pocket? You're going to have your EMD, which is your earnest money deposit. This is the money you put in escrow to show the seller that you're serious about buying their property. You're also going to have to pay for an appraisal while you're in escrow. All right. The purpose of the appraisal is to determine the true value of that property. And then when you're also buying a property and you're in escrow, you want to do inspections. You want to know what's going on with that house. The seller should tell you everything about the property. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't even know what's going on with the property. So the must-haves is termite, your general home inspection, and a sewer inspection. And then there are also optional inspections that your general home inspector may recommend once they do theirs: fireplace, roof, different things. Step 3, you want to start working with your real estate agent, an experienced realtor who understands your need. Oh, sorry. Let's see here. Step 4, you want to start searching for your preferred location based on your must-have features. What is a must-have feature? How many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms do you want? How big do you want your house to be? Do you want a yard? Do you want a pool? Do you want to live in a condo? Do you want to live in a single-family residence? Or do you want to live in multiple units, 1 to 4? Do you want to live by the beach? Or do you want to live in a certain school district? These are important things that you may look for as a buyer in a property. Step 5, check out and tour your top choices with your realtors. Seeing is believing. You always want to go see the property, because sometimes you'll see these beautiful pictures and beautiful videos, and you get there and it's a whole nother story. So always go see the property. Step 6, when you're viewing the homes, feel free to ask many questions about the property. I see a hand. I'm going to take all the questions at the end, if that's okay. So make sure you write down your question and I will be more than happy to answer it. Step 7, you want to make an offer to the seller. If you're 100% sure about getting a house, name your asking price. But I do want you to keep in mind that there may be other buyers placing an offer as well on that property. Now, there are different things that the seller look for in an offer. They're looking at the offer price, the deposit, the down payment, the days in escrow. They're also going to ask for your pre-approval letter, your proof of funds, and then you're also going to have contingencies. So they're going to look at your contingency days, which is your inspection contingency, your appraisal contingency, and your final loan approval. All right. And then another thing to keep in mind, if you have to sell another property, this is something the seller is going to look at as well. So you also want to review and sign the purchase contract. Your dream home is just a signature away. Review the contract before you sign it. Print and sign several copies. Ask your realtors if electronic files are accepted. Step 8 is get home financing. So now you have your offer accepted. You've already got your pre-approval. So with a pre-approval and a signed agreement, it's easy to get finance from your lender. At this point, your lender is going to go back to re-verify your job. They want to make sure you still have that job. They're going to check your bank statements. They want to make sure you still have that money in the bank. Make sure you do not buy a car or anything while you're in escrow. And then lastly, they're going to double check your credit to make sure you still have that excellent credit score. All right. And then while you're in escrow, the lender is going to do an appraisal to check the value of that property. So this is the loan process in a nutshell. Step 1 is getting pre-qualified. Step 2 is the loan application. Step 3 is the initial processing and underwriting. Step 4 is your conditional approval. Step 5 is your final underwriting approval. Step 6 is close the loan. And step 7 is you move in. So this is different parties in the transaction. You're going to have the seller. The seller is the one that's selling the property. You have the buyer. The buyer is the one that's buying the property, which will probably be you. You're also going to have the seller's agent, which is representing the seller. You're going to have the buyer's agent, which represents the buyer. You're going to have escrow or a lawyer, which they are the referee in the transaction. Their job is to make sure the seller does what they said they're going to do and that the buyer is going to do what they said they're going to do. And then also you want to have title insurance. What they do is they make sure the property is free of any liens and they insure the title. And then you're also going to work with the lender. They are the ones that provide the financing for your property. Once again, as I mentioned before, you're going to work with an appraiser. They determine the opinion of the value of that property. Home inspector, they inspect the property for safety issues. You're also going to work with an insurance agent. Their job is to insure the property. And then also you're going to work with a notary public at the end, and they're going to notarize the paperwork for you. Step 9, purchase home insurance policy. All lenders will require homeowners to buy property insurance. A solid insurance policy will protect you, your family, and the house. Step 10, close on your new home. Make sure the property will be vacant and ready to occupy at the close of escrow. Do your final walkthrough. You want to make sure the property is in the same condition that you saw it in at the very beginning, especially if there was a lot of furniture. So at the end, the seller move out all their furniture. You want to make sure there are no holes in the wall once they move that big old couch or furniture, all right? Another thing to keep in mind, you want to give your landlord a notice once all contingencies are removed. Once again, that's your inspection contingency, your appraisal contingency, and your loan contingency. And this is a contingency that may come up sometimes. The seller may have a contingency. They may have a contingency that they have to find a new home. So you want to make sure all these contingencies are met before you give your landlord notice, all right? Escrow is normally about 30 days. Sometimes it may be a little longer. Sometimes it may be a little sooner. Do's and don'ts when you're in escrow. This is a big deal, you guys. You definitely want to continue making your payments on all your bills, okay? You also want to submit all items requested within 3 days to your lender. You do want to notify your loan officer of any changes in your employment or marital status. You also want to obtain insurance no less than 5 days prior to the close of escrow. And then you also want to notify your loan officer of any special circumstances with the closing of your new home. Don't. I repeat again, these are the big no-nos when you are in escrow. Do not change your job or your employer without speaking to your loan officer. Do not have any overdrafts on your account. Do not attempt to open or increase any liabilities, including credit card, loans, or finance a new car. I'm gonna repeat that last one again. Do not finance a new car. So many people do this, okay? Make sure you get the house before the car. And also make sure you do not obtain or deposit any large sums of money from a bonus, insurance settlement, or a gift without proper documentation. And then last but not least, don't close, open, or transfer any assets, which is your bank accounts, without first discussing it with your loan officer. And once you close escrow, this is very important also. You want to change the locks, activate your new alarm system, change your mailing address, transfer your utilities, your water, gas, and electricity. And then also, you just did all this work to get this house. You want to protect your house, protect your asset. You want to get your will, your trust, and power of attorney. Your will, it expressed your desire for handling of your financial and personal affairs. Your living trust, it avoids the cost and delay of probate. So many people are in probate today because they did not get a living trust. Okay, so make sure you avoid the cost and delay of probate to spread out the distribution of your asset over time in your estate. Last but not least, you want to get financial of attorney for your finances. You want to designate someone who can manage your finances and your business affairs if you are not available. And then you also want to get a healthcare power of attorney, designate someone to make decisions about your medical treatment if you are unavailable. Once again, the home buying process in 10 steps. Step 1, seek credit pre-approval. Step 2, set a budget. Step 3, start working with your real estate agent. Step 4, start searching for your preferred location. Step 5, check out and tour your top picks with your realtors. Step 6, visit your homes. Step 7, make offers to the seller. Step 8, get your home financed with the bank once you have your offer and escrow is open. Step 9, purchase homeowners insurance. And step 10, close and move into the property. All right, you guys. And just want to send some special thank yous and shout out. I want to thank NAREB President Lydia Pope, Second Vice President Ashley Thomas, Bishop Craig Worsham, Alpha Phi Alpha, Brother Ron Stovall. And Q&A. At this point, I would take Q&A. And while you guys are asking your questions, I'm going to leave my contact information on the screen if you have any questions. Thank you.
So we did have a question that came in. Are there any differences in steps for buying a second home, such as a lake house or a vacation home?
The process is basically the same, but one thing that they're going to factor in now is that first mortgage. So they're going to include that into your debt ratio, which I didn't talk too much about because we're short on time, but they will calculate that in your debt to income ratio.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? There's a question that I think as you were talking through the do's and the don'ts.
Okay.
And if you can, one of the don'ts, yeah, so when it says don't obtain and or deposit and use your large sums of money, can you just speak a little bit more into why that's a don't?
Okay. The reason why you don't want to do this, a lot of people may have some, we call it mattress money. They have all cash sitting at the house in a safe under the mattress. So if you deposit a large sum of money into the bank all of a sudden, the bank is now going to look at that. Did they just go borrow some money? Did they just go get an extra loan? So that's the main reason why you do not want to deposit a large sum of money. If you can, get a paper trail, get a gift letter saying someone is donating this money to you and that you do not have to pay it back. Because if you go out and get a loan or borrow some money, this will affect your debt ratio.
Understood. Now it is okay during the process of being escrow if you just so happen to pay off something. You had something that maybe at this last payment, you're in that 30-day window, the bill came due, you don't want to, be late and you pay it off. So now it'll show up as closed. That's okay, right?
Once again, you want to speak to your loan officer about paying off a debt. I said it at the beginning. You don't want to pay off a good established account. A lot of times the bank want to see at least 3 strong lines of credit that's been established for 2 years. So if you go pay off all 3 of these accounts, they have nothing else to go off of.
Okay. Gotcha. Just checking again, see if there are any other questions. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I guess you're off the hot seat, Brother Hayworth.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
Yeah, this is great information, and thank you to everyone who took the time to be with us this evening. Again, this is just the first in a 4-part series, and we hope that you continue to stay with us throughout the remainder of the journey. Even though there were some items here that we had to overcome, our next session will be March 1st. So we'll have all those kinks addressed by that time, and then we can continue on with the discussion. Again, we will send you the PowerPoint presentations from all of our speakers, as well as we will upload this to YouTube so you can see it in its entirety through that channel as well. Now that you are part of our attendee list, you are now part of the family. So if you have any questions at all, at any point in time, you can feel free to contact myself at midwestvp at apa1906.net, and I will be sure to help navigate you over to the right person to speak to your questions or your needs. We have, again, I want to send congratulations over to Ms. Toni Davis Spivey, Brother Alan Thomas, and Brother Will Hayworth for putting together an amazing presentation and just walking us through the process of attaining home ownership. Let me, I think there was a hand raised, so I will pause and allow Brother Thomas Tatum to say a few words.
Evening all, evening brother Midwest Vice President. My name is Thomas Tatum. I am the co-chair for the Alpha NAREB Partnership for the Midwestern region. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's participated. A special message, as you saw in the email that was sent out last evening, the relationship between NAREB and Alpha Phi Alpha, we look to get at least 250 brothers before the end of Brother Stovall's term to have either purchased a home or property via our partnership with NAREB. I like to go back at least a year, maybe 2 years. I know some folks have purchased property either right before the pandemic or during the pandemic. So it's very important that we capture that information to see that we actually have a performance measure that brothers are actually getting this. The other number we're looking at is 1,000, reaching 1,000 brothers through the Midwestern region to understand how property purchase, home purchase is an economic development engine, and how it is imperative that we improve our neighborhoods by our own purchase power. Real estate is probably one of the best investments you can make, but there's ways to invest correctly. The information you heard tonight is extremely important. I spent 30 plus years in dealing with community economic development. Unfortunately, I still deal with people who go through some of the steps you heard tonight, but they go through the process of skipping some steps, like the home inspection that they're going to buy. And then they're wondering why 3 months down the road, they have to have a roof replaced, or a foundation that leaks, or windows that are shot because they skipped the home monitoring and inspection process. They wonder why the floor is rotting. That looked perfect when they did the inspection of the home, but 2 years down the road, or even less than that, termites have infested their property, or rodents, or you name it, they have it, and they're looking for help. To the members of NAREB and to the realtors out there, I want to thank you for your partnership and all the information that you have provided. I have worked with the Akron Realtors for a couple of years as an advisor. I will say this: each of you should be looking very soon, if not tonight, then tomorrow, look at what your communities are doing as part of the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan that was passed last year and signed by President Biden is putting an ungodly amount of money in our communities. And what I mean by that, some of these plans are looking at investing at least 10, 20, $30 million in new construction, housing rehabilitation, and home ownership. You need to find out if your communities are investing their funding that way. I know the city of Cleveland is getting roughly $515 million in American Rescue Plan funds. Where I'm located, the city of Akron is receiving about $140 million. $10 million has been earmarked for new construction. $10 million has been earmarked for home rehabilitation. And a portion of that will go to a home purchase program. So I think there's an incentive to make sure that you're at the table when these decisions are being made, and that this partnership will go well beyond purchase of a home or purchase of property, and working with NAREB and also working with banks, lending institutions, mortgage companies, but building our wealth. With that, I yield. Brother Stovall, floor is yours.
Thank you for those words. That was great segue into, I think, the last portion. It's not lost on me that we're holding our first session on the first day of Black History Month. And our intent here is to provide a means for us to build wealth and educate and talk about Black wealth generation. So, stick with us. Again, you're part of the family. We'll get information to you and provide means that, you can have access to have your questions addressed, your concerns, at ease, as, Brother Hayworth went through his information, as well as everyone else here on with you today. So be on the lookout for more information coming from us. And March 1st, again, March 1st will be, again, that first Tuesday in March will be our next session. We look forward to seeing you all there. And again, let's get that wealth. Have a good evening, everyone, and take care.